You don't expect a war to start over a flag. But sometimes, that's exactly how it begins. Not with shouting, not with sirens, but with a letter. Mary Caldwell had lived in that house for 35 years. Same porch swing, same oak trees out front, same American flag raised every single morning at sunrise, lowered every evening just before dusk. It wasn't decoration. It was ritual. Because Mary wasn't just any homeowner. She was the widow of Sergeant First Class Daniel Caldwell, United States Army, 30 years of service, 2 tour overseas, buried with full honors. That flag, it wasn't just fabric. It was memory. The neighborhood had changed over the years. What used to be a quiet, working-class street slowly transformed into something else: polished lawns, uniform mailboxes, and eventually, an HOA. At first it seemed harmless, just to keep property values up. That's what they said. Mary didn't think much of it. She kept her yard clean, paid her dues, stayed out of trouble. Until the letter arrived. It came on a Tuesday. Plain white envelope, HOA logo stamped in the corner. Inside was a notice. Violation, unauthorized flagpole installation. Fine $250. Daily penalty, $25 until removal. Mary read it 3 times. Then she laughed. Not because it was funny. Because it didn't make sense. That flagpole had been there for 20 years. Long before the HOA even existed. She called the number listed at the bottom. A woman answered. Polite voice, cold tone. Ma'am, all exterior structures must comply with current community guidelines. Mary tried to explain. Her husband, his service, the meaning behind it. There was a pause. Then the response. We respect your situation, but rules apply to everyone. That was the moment something shifted. Because this wasn't about rules anymore. This felt like disrespect. Mary didn't take the flag down. The next letter came a week later. Now the fine was $425. Then $600. Then $1,100. Each envelope heavier than the last. Each one colder. Neighbors started to notice. Mary wasn't the type to complain, but you could see it in her face now. Tension, exhaustion. And something else. Defiance. Across the street lived Tom Reyes. Retired firefighter, the kind of guy who noticed everything. He saw Mary struggling with her mail one afternoon and walked over. Everything all right? She hesitated, then handed him the letter. Tom read it. His jaw tightened. You've got to be kidding me. That night Tom made a few calls. By morning, half the street knew. By the weekend, the entire neighborhood was talking. Because here's the thing about Americans. You can argue about politics. You can argue about property. But you don't mess with a veteran's flag. The HOA Board, however, didn't back down. At the next meeting, they doubled down. This is about maintaining uniform standards. That's what the president said. A man named Richard Havorson. Crisp suit, perfect lawn, zero flexibility. Word spread beyond the neighborhood. Someone posted Mary's story online. Then another. Then a local Facebook group picked it up. Within days, it wasn't just a neighborhood issue anymore. It was a town issue. Then something unexpected happened. On a quiet Saturday morning, another flagpole appeared, right next door to Mary's house. Then another, and another. By the end of the day, 6 homes on that street had raised flags. By Sunday, 23, the HOA sent out warnings. More violations. More fines. But something had changed. People weren't afraid anymore. A local news station caught wind of it. They showed up with cameras, interviewed Mary on her front porch. She stood there, holding the folded letter in her hands. "I'm not trying to break rules," she said. "I'm just trying to honor my husband." That clip aired that evening. And that's when everything exploded. Veterans groups got involved. Local businesses started putting up flags in their windows. A hardware store down the road. They started handing out flagpoles at cost. No questions asked. Then came the rally. No one officially organized it. It just happened. Hundreds of people gathered outside the neighborhood entrance. Flags everywhere. Cars lined the streets. Veterans in uniform. Families, kids, elderly couples. All standing together. Mary stood in the middle of it all. Overwhelmed. She never asked for any of this. But she wasn't alone anymore. The HOA tried to respond. They issued a statement. Community guidelines must be upheld. It didn't help. If anything, it made things worse. Because now it wasn't just about Mary. It was about principle. A lawyer from the next town overreached out. Offered to represent Mary for free. Turns out, there are federal protections regarding the display of the American flag. The HOA either didn't know or didn't care. Big mistake. The legal letter hit the HOA office like a bomb. Citation, case law, federal statutes. Clear message. They were in the wrong. Behind closed doors, panic set in. Fines stopped going out. Emails went unanswered. Meetings were suddenly postponed. But the community didn't stop. More flags went up. Not just on that street. Across the entire town. What started as one flag turned into hundreds. Then came the final meeting. The room was packed. Standing room only. People lined the walls. Outside, more watched through the windows. Mary sat in the front row. Quiet, composed. Flag pin on her chest. The HOA board walked in. No confidence this time. No authority. Just tension. Richard cleared his throat. Started reading from a prepared statement. Effective immediately. Pause. All fines related to flag displays are hereby revoked. Murmurs spread through the room. Then applause. Then cheering. But he wasn't done. We will be revising our guidelines to ensure compliance with federal law and to better reflect the values of our community. That's when it hit them. They hadn't just lost a dispute. They'd lost control. Mary didn't celebrate. She didn't cheer. She just sat there, tears quietly running down her face. Later that evening, she stepped outside. As the sun began to set, she reached for the rope, lowered the flag slowly, carefully, respectfully, folded it the way her husband had taught her. Every corner precise, every movement intentional. Then she looked around. At the street, at the houses, at the flags, everywhere. And for the first time since that first letter arrived, she smiled. Because this was never just about a flagpole. It was about respect. And sometimes, respect has to be defended, even if it starts with a single piece of cloth.